what we're going to do is I want to focus a little bit on cancer. And I'm going to guide you through this process. This will be taking place in, for sure, your exam, which is the chapter 10, which I told you will be in your final, right? So you're gonna write some notes, have this video for your guidance, and I'm gonna walk you through some things that, and it's nothing very difficult. I'm not asking you to do a bunch of research. This is just adding more information to what we already know, because you already have a pretty good foundation, more than the average person, on mutations in cancer. So why not build a little bit more, talk a little bit more about it, expand on things that are going to be helpful to all of us in here, being male and females. Um, that's going to be very important, because as the National Institute of Health, it breaks down both men and women and having a increased prevalence in either one, right? So there's some that are more common. For example, colon cancer is more predominant in men, and breast cancer more predominant in women. That does not mean that men cannot get breast cancer. Some men do. That does not mean that women cannot get colon cancer. Some women do. So we're going to take a look at that, and we're going to be looking into also some of the statistics. Now, you're not going to be doing any type of analysis of variance, ANOVAs, regressions. We're not going to do that, but we are going to say some terms that you need to know, because they will be asked of you for sure in that final. I've written down some notes too, so I don't forget them. So let me share something. Okay. Now, if you go to your announcements where I send you that link on cancer, this is the one. This is the link. So we have it here. We have this here. Now, as I go to the other ones, as I talk about a few other topics, I'll send you those links as well. But this one that we're starting off, you're going to have it. You'll have this one. Now, when you get to this website, this again, this is the NIH, National Institute of Health, and this is going to be the National Cancer Institute, provided by cancer.gov. So when you first get to this website, the first thing I want you to do is come here and play this video. This is called Cancer Statistics, okay? And they do a really good job talking about things here. Now, some of the things that I would like for you to focus on is this term called incidence rate. Incidence rate. So it doesn't have it here. I mean, we'll get into it. I'm going to break it down for you. But they talk about it in this video, incidence rate. So when you want to write that, incidence rate. Something else that I want you to become familiar with is it's called a 5-year relative survival. 5-year relative survival. Again, answered in this short or maybe 5-minute video. 5-year relative survival. Also, in this video, they talk about a word called prevalence. So Prevalence. 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 In this video too, they will talk about mortality rate. Mortality rate. Now, there's something you also need to know. It's called, in all caps, SEER program. I want you to know what that stands for. Okay, it's also discussed in this video. So those are going to be things discussed in this video. So all the answers are there for you. You can just replay it if you need to. Now, the next thing is you'll want to, and this thing is not very long. It's not super long. It's not like you're reading a book or anything. I think it's like if you were reading it on a standard textbook, it would probably be 2 pages, not even front and back. But I want you to read through this thing. Start from the top, read through it, and then really start to focus here on statistics at a glance, the burden of cancer in the United States. And start reading through here, and let's say here. Now, let's take a look at this. In 2020, an estimated 1,806,590 new cases of cancer will be diagnosed in the United States. And based on historical data, unfortunately, 606,520 people will die from this disease in 2020. These are numbers that usually the general public is not aware of. This is significant. Now, you may be thinking, can you imagine when you get this numbers and then you add up flu cases, people that die from flus? You get that number plus flu cases and people that pass away from automobile accidents. And then you get that number and you add other things. It's a pretty big number. Now, one thing I do want to discuss is that I'm going to tie it into a little bit of the COVID-19 so you can understand a few things. And you'll see that as we get through this process, our number of cases in the US, and let me take my hat off because I think I get that shadow. Fix my hat hair, what's it called? Hat hair? Yeah, we'll fix that a little bit. I should make those commercials with the wind blowing through my hair and I just going like that. Yeah. Fix my sometimes I used to wear a hard hat in industry. We used to call it like helmet head, helmet hair. So the number of cases are rising. However, the number of deaths is decreasing. You may ask yourself, how is that possible? How is it that the number of deaths, how is it the number of cases are increasing and the number of deaths are declining? Well, the answer is quite simple. And it also applies a little bit into the COVID situation. And we'll get to that. Our methods of detection have increased with our technologies. So what we were finding out in the 80s and the 90s, now the level of detection in analytical chemistry, we call it the LOD, or the limit of detection, has gotten so much better that we have been able to identify more cases that were not able to be identified a decade or 2 decades ago. So as a result, the data goes up because of the technology. And now more people are becoming more aware and people have a little more access to healthcare and they get screenings. Okay, so that is one of the reasons. Now, why would there be a decrease? So you're saying this number of cases is up, but then there's a decrease. Well, since our technologies are better at detecting things in terms of cancer cells, we are able to detect in some cancers, not all, very early stages of this. If the individual goes and gets tested, we can find very early stages of the cancer. So therefore, we have to document, that doctor has to document, yes, it's still cancer, because we know what cancer is. We know that it is at the foundation a change in a nucleotide sequence. Even if it's one cell, you still have to document that cell. That cell is still, one little cell is still a cancer cell. You can't say that, oh, I found this cancer cell, but it's only one cell. Shh, one cell, don't worry about it. It doesn't work that way. You have to document it, right? Now, with the early detection and with the limit of detection getting better and better and better, people stand a better chance of survival. Okay, what's another one? The therapeutics, right? Not the cure, but the therapeutics. Treatments of cancer has improved. So therefore, we are now having more survivors. That is how we explain that graph. That is, if you picture that in your head, that graph, that's how we explain that data. Now, let's talk a little bit about COVID-19 to put it into perspective. And I know it can be a touchy subject. We hear lots of things from the media. This person says this, and this news says this, and this, and this. And it's sometimes overwhelming that then we just kind of just like, let's just shut it out. Okay. If we only had 100 test kits for COVID, then our number of cases would look small. Would you agree? If we only had 100 test kits for COVID, would you agree that the number of results for the US would look small? I mean, 100 for the whole United States. It would look pretty small, right? Yes or no? Yeah, you would say, you could then make the case like, wow, that country has only, I don't know, whatever number of cases. Okay. Now, put a thumbs up here in this, and I know this will not be able to be seen by video because it doesn't record all the blackouts, or the blacked out, or just the names in terms of when we record it. But let's put a thumbs up if this is the scenario. If you have symptoms, do you have access to a COVID test? Meaning, if you were sick and you wanted to know, would you be able to go somewhere and find out if you have COVID? Put a thumbs up if the answer is yes. Okay, so thumbs up if you know that you can go somewhere. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to know the doctor's name or the clinic, but you can go somewhere and get tested. Okay, so that looks like, I would say 95% of you know that you can go somewhere and get tested, including myself. Therefore, due to the availability of testing, you're gonna have an increase. Because I would say almost with certainty that most Americans have access somehow, some way to get tested for that virus. Therefore, the number of cases is naturally expected to go up. Now, since COVID-19 has happened, we've learned a heck of a lot, haven't we? Naturally. Something's brand new, riding your bike. You jump on your bike, riding your bike for the first time. You get on it, it's wobbly, it's wiggly. You're like, oh, maybe not know how to put the brakes on. But then as the months go by, now you're in, let's say 6 months in, you've kind of learned a lot about the bike, right? You kind of figured out how to ways to work it. Same thing with this virus. So in that case, we've learned so much because we knew so little, right? So our therapeutics have really increased. So number of cases goes up because we have the access, and then numbers of deaths has gone down because now doctors know, they're sharing information, even vitamins, ladies and gentlemen. We're now even understanding certain vitamins that help, even to that level. So we're learning so much because we knew so little. And now we're having a better situation. Now, when it started, we didn't know what we were looking at. That's why it's called a novel virus. It's new, made by humans, right? We don't know we don't know what works, what doesn't work. I hate to say it, a lot of it was trial and error. And you know what the error resulted in? Death. And I I have lost people from it. I know people close to me who have died from it. My neighbor, it almost took him out. Now, I will say, I have seen that in this particular case, now we're gonna roll it back into cancer. Um, I know someone who was a heavy drinker and a very bad diet. So overweight, heavy drinker, got COVID, and he spent some time in the hospital. He said, "Oh man, it got close." And the guy doesn't. And now he's older, in his fifth, in his close to getting his 60s, yeah. And so his age is up there now, 60s, drinks a lot, doesn't take good care of himself, and it got pretty close. He wasn't sure he was going to make it. So again, we have learned that, like all other diseases and viruses, trying to stay healthy is the best thing that we can do for ourselves. And the same can be said for something that's a non-virus, like cancer. Trying to stay healthy, eat healthy, have a healthy lifestyle. It says that here in this government information that we're going over. Trying to stay healthy brings a great outcome on everything. So let's jump back to that. Now let's take a look at the most common cancers. They're listed in descending order based on 2020 data. Okay. So let's take a look at some of these. Breast cancer, lung cancer, prostate cancer, colon and rectum cancer, melanoma of the skin, bladder, non-Hodgkin lymphoma, kidney, renal pelvis cancer, endometrial cancer, leukemia, pancreatic cancer, thyroid, and liver cancer. So if we take a look at these up here, breast cancer, lung cancer, prostate, and colon cancer, boy, we have to focus on these. We really need a lot of focus here. As I told you in chapter 10, mutations in cancer, we started out discussing breast cancer, but we never went into lung. We never even discussed prostate. We saw no data on prostate. We saw no data on colon. We saw no data on skin because we were just looking at the how, right? Prostate, lung, and colorectal cancers account for 43% of cancer. So you want to know that. Diagnosed in men in 2020, 43%. So that's quite a bit. It's quite a bit there. Now for women, and you guys need to know this differences for women, the three most common cancers are breast cancer, lung cancer, and colorectal cancer. They account for 50% of the new cancer diagnosis in 2020. Okay, so know your top three for men, know your top three for women. Very important. Now, this is a term you need to know. Cancer incidence. What is cancer incidence? That is the rate of new cases of cancer per 1,000 men and women. All right, that's the sample size. The sample size of men and women is 100,000. That is the cancer incidence. So, meaning the rate of new cases of cancer. So what is the rate of new cases of cancer? In other words, i.e. cancer incidence, that is 442.4 per 100,000. Okay. Make sure you understand this one. More cancer mortality, right? Or they could, and you could put, you could actually even put the word rate in behind here. Say cancer incidence rate, cancer mortality rate, as they've done here. Look at this here. The cancer mortality rate. So I like to say with rate. People can say cancer mortality, and we should know what we're talking about, but I like to put the rate in there. So let's take a look at the cancer mortality rate, which is the cancer death rate per, again, remember this number, 100,000 men and women. What is it? 158.3. Now, the cancer mortality rate is higher among men than women. Now we're breaking it apart. Right? Now, higher amongst men than women. Let's look at something else that we rarely don't think about. What about, do we have data on ethnicity? Yes, we do. When comparing groups based on race and ethnicity, gender, which means sex, male, female, cancer mortality is highest in African American men and lowest in Asian/Pacific Islander women. Make sure you know those things. As of January 2019, there was an estimated 16.9 million cancer survivors in the United States, and the number of cancer survivors is projected to increase. The number of cancer survivors is projected to increase to 22.2 million by 2030. Good news. Now, let's talk about what's the likelihood of being diagnosed with cancer at some point during our lifetime. Approximately 39.5% of men and women will be diagnosed with cancer at some point during their lifetimes. At some point. Cancer contributes to approximately 18.1 million new cases. And its overall cancer-related deaths worldwide is 9.5 million. That's a big number. Now look at this. By 2040, the number of new cancer cases per year is expected to rise to 29.5 million, and the number of cancer-related deaths to 16.4 million. Now let's look at this. I really like this part right here. Generally, cancer rates are highest in countries whose population have the highest life expectancy, education level, and standard of living, but some cancers, such as cervical cancer, have the reverse incidence rate. Now, the reason for that is because as we get older, our risk of cancer increases. Okay, so as we get older, our risk of cancer increases. Here's another important fact. As the overall cancer death has declined, the number of cancer survivors has increased. The trends show that the progress is being made against the disease, but much work remains. Now look at these. These are some factors. They mention some of the factors being obesity, they get into, and also it says, this is very important. As the United States population is aging and cancer rates increase with age. Okay, so again, as we get older, cancer rates increase. We talked about it. We talked about the cell cycle. We talked about P53, tumor suppressor genes. We talked about checkpoints in the cell cycle. We talked about proto-oncogenes. Like we really looked at all the checks and balances that are going on. And we know that these checks and balances tend to, at some point, or even insert frame shift mutations, right? We looked at the nucleotide sequence, okay, and there was an insertion and causing a frame shift, that these have a tendency to occur with age. Now, as we get here, this is what I wanted you to know. We have this thing called the surveillance epidemiology and end results program. What does it do? It collects and publishes cancer incidence and survival data from populations based on the cancer registries that cover approximately 35% of the US population. So that's the picture of all the people in the United States. We're looking like about at 35%. So it is a good thing to have. It's a good thing because it really provides us lots of data. So right now, do we have any questions? I'll stop the share, bring the camera down. Do we have any questions so far? Okay. So we covered that. Now, I'm going to navigate something for you. We're back at the link that I send you in your announcements, the cancer statistics. I want you to go here. All right, so let's do that again. You go to cancer types. And I want you to just look at the videos that are involving breast cancer, colorectal cancer, and prostate cancer. So you're going to come here, for example, breast cancer. You click it. Okay, we're on the breast cancer. You scroll down. Like this is just, I mean, please, if there's something that interests you, this is the place you want to be. This is where it's at. They give you the overview. They give you causes and prevention. In some cases, there isn't. It depends on which one we're looking at. They won't have a link here because there's currently no knowledge on the causes and prevention. Like it's, they're still investigating. Here are the treatments. You want to know about screening? Want to know about current research that's going on? Hey, click that. You want to understand coping with cancer? Maybe you have a loved one, right? Adjusting to it, supporting the caregiver, survivorship, advanced care, managing cancer. If you want to know these things, it's here. But we're going to focus on the stats. Now, I don't have that share. It won't work. I don't know why it doesn't do it. Let's see. Just out of curiosity, let me try something. The student told me that they were able to do this, but let me try to click this. Test. So I'm going to try to click this. I don't need that. What I'm trying to do is get you to hear this. Let me know, give me a thumbs up, or actually jump in if you can hear this, or just say it because I can't see you.
We can hear that.
And you can see it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes,
So,
sir.
We can still see it.
so it's working?
The line's
Yes.
kind of low.
Great.
Did you know that female breast cancer death rates are decreasing in the United States? Breast cancer death rates vary considerably according to the type of breast cancer and racial and ethnic group. Nevertheless, the overall death rate from this disease has decreased among women of all racial and ethnic groups. This includes white women and black women, the two racial groups with the highest breast cancer death rates. From 1975 to the early 1990s, female breast cancer death rates increased among both black women and white women. Beginning around 1990, these death rates began to decrease among white women, followed by a decrease among black women around 1993. As of 2010, breast cancer death rates remained higher among black women than white women. The decrease in female breast cancer deaths in the United States is encouraging news. The recent identification of specific genetic changes in breast cancer tumors is also important because it may lead to the development of targeted breast cancer treatments. Talk with your doctor about breast cancer screening and steps you can take to reduce your risk of breast cancer. If you are diagnosed with breast cancer, your doctor can help you decide on a course of treatment that will give you the best chance for long-term survival. For more information about female breast cancer, please visit the NCI Breast Cancer webpage at www.cancer.gov/breast. For additional cancer statistics, visit the SEER program webpage at seer.cancer.gov.
Okay, great. So how did that work out? Were you able to see it and hear it well?
You could see it, but the narration was
The
coming.
volume was a little low for me. I couldn't really
Yeah.
hear it.
The volume was a little low?
Yeah, but I could see it.
Okay, all right. So make sure,
I just turned up my volume all the way.
okay, make sure you go through those, which is the breast cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer. Now, we did talk about BRCA1 and BRCA2, right? In terms of breast cancer. I just want to show you something. Let's go to share. Now, I'm not requiring this for you, but I'm just want you to know something. Let's go to colon. Let's go now to causes and prevention. I'm going to click this. You don't have to do this. I just wanted to show you something. Look at the inherited risk, right? So take a look at that. We're looking at a certain gene linked to FAP and as well as this one here. So something of interest in case colon cancer runs in your family. Now, I have not done this, but I'm going to go to breast cancer and see if they have BRCA1 or BRCA2. I haven't done this. I was checking colon, but I didn't do this for the prevention in terms of breast cancer. So we're in breast cancer prevention. Let's go back to see down here, we can see inherited. And again, as I've told you, man, these lymph nodes, right? These lymph nodes in terms of the lymphatic system, that's where it really, it causes the spreading of cancer. So it says here already, there's an inherited risk. So we get that, okay. Let's try to find it. Boom. Inherited risk of breast cancer. BRCA1, BRCA2 genes. Okay. So now look at us. We have a pretty darn good understanding of inherited risk of breast cancer. You already know these things. So you're learning a lot. You're learning a lot in this course in terms of cancer and all these things. Like now you even know genes, their names. So very important stuff. So that's what this is about. There's other things I want to show you these, or I'll send you some links. I believe this is very important. This one's shorter than this is very short, but I do want you to have an overview, and I will ask it of you. It's very important specifically for the ladies, and I just have to throw it out there, and I'll send you the link. This is from the Mayo Clinic, and I want you to go through this cervical cancer. I want you to read it, get the overview, symptoms, causes, types. So very important stuff. I just really wanted to make sure you guys know that. And I'll send you this specific link to the announcement, and I'll put in there the cancer link just so it's all in one announcement. Last one I wanted to throw out there is something that most people, but we covered it, but most people wouldn't know it, is thinking of a fungus as a potential cancer risk. So let's take a look at that one. We've already covered this one, but this is the last one. I'm not going to go into great details, but this one will be asked of you. Make sure you know this one here. So we talked about aflatoxins, which is a mycotoxin produced from a fungus known as Aspergillus flavus or Aspergillus parasiticus, and that this can be found in warm and humid regions, like us in this area, and it can be contaminated in crops in the field. So like corn, certain peanuts, things like that. Mold, it looks like mold. And it doesn't give you a lot of information. It's not a lot, but I just wanted to throw that out there since we are talking about cancer, that, hey, there is something that can cause it. Now, I don't think it, even here, to help minimize the risk, the United States Food and Drug Administration test foods that may contain aflatoxins such as peanuts and peanut butter. However, there's even way more to it. I believe they're called action levels. Don't quote me. I think they're called action levels, and meaning by no means, or they're not recommendations, they're action. You have to take action. And if you are selling, for example, like corn that has a certain level of aflatoxins, done. Like that whole load is gone. So, and it can cause liver cancer. So we end that there because I bring that to you because, again, remember we talked about the environment, and there are things out there that have the potential to cause cancer, being from what you want to call Mother Nature, right? Truly natural out there. They're not, the humans didn't do anything to them. They didn't make them in the lab. That is something that has been out truly in the environment by nature. And again, environment could be human-made, right? Human-made. When we think of environment, we break it down into both human-made and actual truly nature. So I had to throw that in there to you. And are there many more? Yes, there is. But I'm not, that can be cancerous in nature, yes. But I just wanted to throw that one in there to prove to you that, yes, in nature we can have that. A likelihood of you getting liver cancer from eating contaminated foods with aflatoxin is very low, because of our FDA and USDA. So Food Drug Administration and United States Department of Agriculture, they do a lot of work out there trying to make food good for us. Are there other places in the world where people actually get like liver cancer because they're eating contaminated foods? You betcha. There are places where people don't have the luxury of having such a massive regulatory agency. They don't have the money for that. There are some places that let alone don't have the money for that, but don't have much food. We went over the chapter where we talked about malnutrition. So do you think someone who's really, really hungry is going to look at some corn that they may make like a corn, maybe like a cornbread out of or something? They're going to like, and do you think that they're going to be like, ooh, this one has a little bit of like brown stuff. Let's just throw it all away. No, they're not. Or a little bit of black stuff. No, they're not. They're going to use what they have. So we, this country, are unlikely to experience that, but there are others who might. So I didn't want you to think like, well, if we're unlikely to get it, why are we even talking about this? And if we have all this regulatory guidelines and action levels, why are we doing this? Well, it doesn't apply to everybody else. So I just wanted to bring that to you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of this. I will be sending out announcements with the links that we covered all in one, including the cancer one. Even though we resend it, I'm just going to just put it in there. Now, at some time, just want to give you a little hint, I will be asking some questions, not sure when, but could be this week, could be in the next session, it could be next week, for bonus points in terms of what we discussed today. Okay, so try to come prepared tomorrow as well as next week, because you don't know when I'm gonna just ask you some random questions to it. Okay, and it's all bonus points, all volunteer. I'm not gonna call on anyone. That's up to you if you want to share that, but you can make some bank if you wish in terms of points. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time, and I'll get to setting out those announcements right now. Everybody take care. Bye.
Hi, Dr. Delgado. Have a
See ya.
good day.
Bye, sir.
You too. Take care. Bye.
Bye, Dr. Geller. Stay safe.
You too. Bye.